What a finish. No surprises at the top of the leaderboards, but 1 point was the determining factor for who would slide into that coveted fifth place game spot. Thanks for joining us for our daily semifinal recap show. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. The fight for fifth was across all three divisions to see who will head to Madison, Wisconsin for the CrossFit Games. Kiefer Lammi has been with us all weekend long from the Syndicate Crown. Man, what a way to end the weekend with some really fun races today.
It was exciting. It's been exciting across the board with the exception of, maybe Mayhem running away with it, but all the battles from, second down to seventh and eighth were really tight, and it was a fun day to watch.
Yeah, it's really interesting because even yesterday we were saying how Saturday or the middle of the competition is normally moving day. That's when we see a lot of shifts in the leaderboard, but you can kind of say that about today too. It was almost anybody's race all the way through the final workout.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the women's side, we saw it with Christy Armo making a huge charge really over the last four workouts. And the same with Will Morad today, taking a fifth place and then winning the final workout to slide in by 1 point. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible to watch. We'll pull up the men's leaderboard first, just if anybody hasn't seen who has punched their ticket to the CrossFit Games on the men's side. No surprise, Justin Medeiros right on top, Jason Hopper, Cole Grayshaber, Tudor Magda, and then Will Morad. You briefly mentioned Will getting in there, but the fascinating thing is he snuck into fifth place by just 1 point, which determined that he would get that games ticket. So much shaking up. We were waiting on the judges to get the math because James Sprague, going into this workout, he was sitting in third. Will Moorhead was sitting in eighth, but then that workout really determined how he made it to the CrossFit Games, essentially.
Yeah, honestly, like your heart has to break for James Sprague. He was so good through the middle of the week. I know everybody in the crowd was cheering for him. He did so great. But at the end of the day, Will put on an incredible performance in that last workout. And I think even after, he wasn't even sure if he had done enough to make it in. So, we had to wait to see how the rest of the heats factored into it. And, tough to see for James, but really exciting for Will at the same time.
As you were watching that final event on the floor, did you have any idea who actually was going to punch the ticket? Like, were you doing your own math, or was everybody kind of looking around and shaking their head, just waiting for somebody to announce it?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty clear that, Justin and Jason were going to punch a ticket regardless, and they were really smooth through that last workout. Same with Cole, same with Tudor even, they were consistent throughout. It didn't seem like there was anything that was really slowing them down. As we know, and we saw in the first workout, strength is still a little bit of a weakness for James. He's a younger athlete. He's coming along very similar to how Haley was, and it just felt like as that workout went on, you started to see a few more guys start to push ahead, and it just slowly worked to a place where what was almost a shoe-in for him turned into a big question mark at the end.
I think it's so bittersweet because Will Morad has had this incredible, heartbreaking story, honestly, since last year with his wife being diagnosed with cancer. I mean, we can only imagine what stress that puts on you. So to see him qualify for the games is incredible. But in the same breath, we also want to see James Sprague there. Luckily, he will get that opportunity through the last chance qualifier. And honestly, if he doesn't make it this year, this is definitely not the end of the road for his long career in the sport.
Definitely not. He's such a talented kid. He's going to be around for a long time. Between him, Tuda, Cole, who I think is the oldest of the three at only 22 years old, there's a lot of exciting young guys coming up in the sport. And if nothing else, this will just fuel his fire for the next season.
Yeah, this field is certainly going to be fun to watch once we head to Madison. Justin Medeiros, super consistent per usual, only one first place finish. But I mean, last year at the games, we saw you don't need to win to still sit on top at the end of the weekend. It's all about averages. He did exactly what he needed to do to stand on top of the podium today.
Yeah, I was standing with Justin Kotler, one of our coaches, and he was talking to Adam, and he said, one of their big things is just never leaving points on the table. And that's kind of how Justin approaches things. He never quite looks like he's overextending. He always looks super comfortable, but he rarely makes a mistake, and that allows him to stay in the top five throughout the whole weekend and come away with a win.
And he really always looks like he's having fun. He kind of has the same look on his face the entire competition. You never see him stressed, and maybe he's feeling it internally, but if you look at his demeanor, his body language, he always looks like he's in control.
Yeah, you can tell he spent some time with Fraser at one point or another, right? He he knows what he's good at now. He knows how comfortable he can be within these workouts, and he's doing what he needs to.
Yes, he is. And speaking of doing what they need to, let's turn to the women's leaderboard. Haley Adams did exactly what she needed to. It's just kind of proof that even though her first workout with the strength, she got a 23rd place finish. It just shows how good she is at all of these other modalities to end up at top of the podium by the end of the weekend.
Yeah, she was super impressive across the board past that point. No finishes outside of the top three. And you can tell looking at the top five, 3 of the 5 women finished outside the top 10 on the strength event. And as long as they were consistent throughout the rest of the weekend, it's enough to get by. And so, I think we know that at the games level, but to see it even at the semifinals level, that if you can check all the other boxes, the strength event isn't enough to keep somebody out that's deserving.
Yeah, and then in second place, Alexis Raptis. She just nearly made the games last year through the last chance qualifier, so she'll be going for her rookie year. We have Paige Semenza, Christy Aramo O'Connell going back to the CrossFit Games, and Christine Colenbrander. I mean, these are a group of women who are all so deserving, and it worked out with the programming for them, and I'm really excited to see this group of women back at the games, or like Alexis heading to the games for the first time.
I am too. I think, particularly for somebody like Christine Colenbrander and Alexis Raptis, who were both so close last year, you can tell that, they're in a good position now, that their training's going well, that hopefully they're gonna put on a good showing in Madison. And I think above all, Christy showed us through the second half of the weekend that she still got it. And I think with a full set of games programming, she'll show out even more, and she could be really exciting this year.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see her back at the games. One of the big storylines was watching the battle between Christine Colenbrander and Ariel Lowen. These two women, they were the ones that we really needed to watch today to see who was going to get that final spot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was a really exciting battle. Ariel was great through the whole weekend. She had a little bit of trouble in the sandbag in the last event, still had a great finish, but ultimately was just not quite enough to get her into that top 5 group. But hats off to Christine. She was super consistent. I knew she was strong. I knew she was powerful, but I wasn't sure how she'd do on some of the other events. And she was really consistent through the whole weekend.
Yeah. And as we mentioned, consistency is the name of the game. A team that was, I don't even know that you can say consistent, but I mean consistent, but consistently excelling at everything they do. No surprise, CrossFit Mayhem Freedom, another clean sweep. CrossFit Reykjavik also did it this week. 6 for 6, sitting at the top of the leaderboard. I mean, I don't know that there's really anybody that can touch them, at least at this stage in the game.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell pretty much within North America, and we'll see what it looks like once we get to the games level. They're definitely in a league of their own. Throughout the whole weekend, it was sort of like watching 2 different things. You were watching the Mayhem show, and then you were watching the rest of the competition going on, and both were super exciting. But they were just a notch above everybody else.
Yeah, and then in second place, CrossFit CLT, then CrossFit Overtake Team Density, 8th day CrossFit Black, and just sneaking in CrossFit Mayhem Justice. I know earlier this season, folks from the Mayhem crew, they were saying that they want to get 3 teams, not only at the games, but on the podium. And this is just kind of one step in their hunt to do exactly that.
Yeah, they were gritty through the whole weekend. They seem to excel really well in the workouts that showcase a little bit more of individual talent. They struggled a little bit on the second event, the first event they had with the worm, but throughout the rest of the weekend, they continued to creep up. They stayed in it, and they snuck in by the end. They had a really great final day.
I'm curious you've been on the floor, you've been in the stadium, the seats, talking to athletes, watching this all unfold. What were some of the big highlights or takeaways that you have from the entire weekend at the Syndicate Crown?
I mean, talking about the team still, it was almost funny to see Mayhem Justice have more crowd support than Mayhem Freedom did. It's like everybody knows that Freedom's
Wow.
going to make it, but the people that were there to support Justice and to see them, and even to see the way that Rich and Sam and the girls supported them throughout the rest of the workouts was really fun. So I think that made the team competition more exciting, because it's not just everybody front running and looking at Rich's team and wanting to watch them. It's sort of pulling for the underdog, if you can call a Mayhem team an underdog ever. And I mean, on the women's side, the most exciting thing for me was definitely seeing the way Christy handled the second half of the weekend. She took 3 firsts in the 6th place, catapulted herself up the leaderboard. She's somebody that we've seen around for a while that we all kind of expect near the top, but I wasn't sure after the first day. And so to see the clinic that she put on a couple of the workouts was pretty incredible.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because like we see so many of these younger athletes getting strong, having these incredible engines, and really making a name for themselves in this space. To see a veteran like Christy still being able to punch her ticket to the games, I think is really telling just about her overall fitness and athleticism.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, the young athletes get a lot of attention, rightfully so, but there's still a group of women near the top of the leaderboard that will have a lot to say about it. But women like Haley, like Alexis, that are on the younger side. I think this was the first year that Alexis has been full-time training at Training Think Tank. Like they're continuing to ascend, and they're going to be really exciting for a lot of years to watch.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a great move for her. It shows that it certainly is paying off for her, and seeing a healthy Alexis Raptis too is going to be incredible to see what she can really do in Madison.
Absolutely. Yeah. And on the men's side, we watched James Sprague all weekend. I personally was incredibly impressed with Tudor Magda. He came out hot in the first event, won, or I think tied for first on the strength event. And through the whole weekend, it was kind of the same idea of, all right, well, he's strong, but I wonder how good his skills are. And he continued to prove that he belonged. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look back and watch, but him walking on his hands, I think we may have talked about this before with Ariel, but he was one of the most impressive gymnasts I saw all weekend. And to be such a young guy and such a bigger athlete was really cool.
Yeah, I think that he goes faster on his hands than I can even go on my feet.
Yeah, for sure.
This is just week one of semifinals. You are staying in location until next weekend, right?
That's correct. Yep. We'll spend the week hanging out, trying to get into the gym a few days, and then we start all over again.
We do this all over again. It's only week one, but we have a big group of athletes that have already qualified for the CrossFit Games. Last chance qualifier will be after semifinals. The season is just getting started. I'm pumped.
I'm pumped. I'm excited. This first weekend kind of gets the nerves out, gets us excited. Now we've got some momentum going forward. For us personally, we have Danielle Brandon, Kyra Milligan, and some other athletes competing. So it's going to be an exciting few weeks.
I can't wait to see what else is in store. Kiefer, thank you so much for sitting down with us all weekend long. And we'll probably see you at some point next weekend.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.